Hey guys, the time has come to look at these two, Skids and Mudflap from obviously Revenge of the Fallen. And here they are. And as much as I am not a fan of the car modes, I do admit that they are done nicely. So I don't like the style of these cars. I don't like them. The Chevy Spark, I think, and whatever this thing is, I don't really know. But I do like how well executed they are, how well they look. And that was always a thing with the movies, is that their vehicle modes were always spot on. They were always very, very nice, especially since half of them were licensed, so they had to be good. But yeah, I do not like the cars themselves, but I really like how they're executed. I love the colors, love the paint, love the details. So, keen-eyed viewers, I think this is the tuner Mudflap, and then this is the regular Skids. I mean, this is the tuner Skids, and then this is the regular Mudflap, I think. I don't know if that's correct, because I think the regular Skids does not have this decal, or whatever it is. So, I might be wrong on that, but this is not my this is my second Mudflap. My original Mudflap I had when I was a kid, and that one was the tuner because it had a design, and it was more, I guess, bronze or rose gold, you could say, other than this, like, sparkly brown. But, either way, doesn't matter. We're still looking at the same molds. And they still match. But yeah, they roll just barely because they both suffer from the legs and the bottom of their waist poking out the bottom. So if you transform them wrong, just barely wrong, you will get a big hump on the bottom, where they can't roll. It'll roll on the back, but not on the front. And I spent quite a bit of time on Mudflap trying to get that. And when I was transforming these guys, Skids, comparing the two, he is a touch easier, but still he's difficult. Or I wouldn't say difficult, he's just complex and not fun. Both these guys are complex and not fun. I wouldn't say which makes them difficult, because ultimately, compared to some other toys, they're not super frustrating or difficult when it comes to their transformation, but the fact that they have such complex and dumb complex, I should say, they're frustrating, and I'll show that and I'll explain that a bit more. But I have had Skids before, I mean Mudflap, and it still took me quite a while to figure out his legs, to get his arms in. I could not remember for the life of me how to get it to where that hump would be gone, but I eventually did. So, but obviously it's not perfect like the doors. There's still some panel gaps, and the same thing with Skids. But you'll realize that when you're transforming these guys and you get a panel gap like that, you won't care, because it's just dumb. It's weird. I don't like it. And just, I'll show you. And the reason why I don't have my tuner Skids, I mean Mudflap, is because he broke. And that is another thing that I'll talk about, is that these toys are not conducive whatsoever to be played with at all, in my personal opinion. So, we'll start with Skids to transform. So, I just like, there's no really method to this sort of madness, so I'm just going to start unpegging stuff, and I typically start with the door, but that typically goes first, and so start with that, and that. There's a lot of parts just being pushed past each other, and that's something that I don't like, especially, like, yeah, the plastic's okay, like, I don't feel like it's gonna break, but it's super thin in a lot of places. The pinned parts are thin, these hinges are thin, a lot of this stuff is thin, so I wish there was a bit better clearances with them. But you'll flip out the foot like that, then you'll fold his windshield, and then you'll work this double hinge so that peg can go on that port, like so, and then you can pivot it and angle it however you want. You can use that as a heel spur. That's what I'm going to do, and then you'll straighten out his leg with those two hinges. Like, see how it's all bent, and that has to be completely perfect for it has to line up for the door in the robot mode. So yeah, so there's legs all done, and now we will just, if it hasn't already done it, just disconnect this, and then we'll just somewhat put that off to the side, and then we'll bring these out, disconnect that, bring that up, and now we're going to rotate all of this. And like I said, it's just parts clashing with each other because there's no room to work, and it's just not very enjoyable to transform both of these guys. There's no room, and just it's not enjoyable to do. Like, you can flip the hood up, as I just showed. Like, you can flip the hood up, but this piece, it's on this hinge, but you can't flip it up anywhere. And then you take these pieces, hinge them down, and then you bring the fist back around. Same thing with this side. Now, his head, flip that around. And there are 2 pegs that will go into those 2 holes. You have to manipulate a little bit to get it in there. And mine are just super tight, or it's just clashing into something. I don't really know, but I don't really care. But there's this tab that'll go into that slot behind his head, like that. And now you'll rotate that around, like that. And now you have his arms and the legs all done. And I think this thing is supposed to be like that, but I'm going to straighten it out so I can straighten him out a little bit, but that's not going to happen. So there's Skids, and we'll put him off to the side. So now, time to dive back deeper. And I'm just going to start disconnecting a lot of this stuff, and you can just see how the legs go in, very similar to Skids, but with these fenders, they have to engage and lock in, and then there's a tab underneath the door. But the thing is like, a lot of the toys of Revenge of the Fallen, especially like the 2 main ones, I think, is Leader Class Prime and Mixmaster. Mixmaster, especially for me, because when I was younger, I struggled with that. And Revenge of the Fallen Prime, I did have one. I didn't really play with him very much. But I remember that also being fairly difficult to transform. But I can understand that because they at least have a good robot mode and an amazing looking vehicle mode. And like Mixmaster, because of his much more wonky design, I can respect him a bit more. These toys I cannot. So so now we'll fold out his arms, but I just cannot respect these toys. They're not cool looking. They're not, like, their cars aren't cool. They're not even like a concept Camaro. They're economy cars. At least Skids is. He's an economy car from GM. And it's not cool. It's not fun. You know, like, the cars aren't even cool. Their robots are horrible looking. They have 0 articulation. There's 0 fun. So I just do not like these toys. Because, and I do like this, that when you transform the torso, the legs, and then you do this, when you rotate all of this around, I do like that the 2 share that. That's something that I do like, that they somewhat share that design. It just makes them feel more, like brothers, like they are. But enough about that. I just don't see the point, is that you're getting you're gonna take this tab and you're gonna put it inside the slot of this missile thing, if I remember correctly. And nothing's lining up. But is that at least with Mixmaster, you get a somewhat cool robot mode, and you get an amazing cement truck mode. And I can understand that. That's why he's cool. And I can respect his transformation because it's a much odder design, especially compared to these guys. Like, yes, they're very squat and weird, but comparing it to that toy, it's much, they're much stupider and weirder, but they are not the same oddness of, his proportions. So I understand and respect his engineering. And Prime, obviously, he just has a wacky transformation in a good way. But I respect both their transformations because they do a good job at it. And that you at least get two good modes out of it. A good robot mode and a good vehicle mode. These guys, you don't get a really cool or good vehicle mode. Objectively, it's good because they look accurate, but they're not cool cars. They're not a cement truck. They're not a semi. They're not a Camaro. They're not a Corvette. They're not anything. Even Sideways, who's a sedan, looks cooler than these guys. And then you get these rubbish, like trash robot modes. I don't like them. They're not cool looking, especially their faces. Skids is the worst. Mudflap is just stupid. I don't like to be that person to just jump on the bandwagon of hating these guys, but it's the toys. When I was a kid, I never picked up on the racial stereotypes or whatever the stereotypes were in the movie. I haven't even watched the movie since I was like freaking like 7, but it's these toys. I don't like the engineering style. I don't like the way they're pulled off. Like, he can't, like, these pieces, they get in the way, and then he has horrible articulation. Like, you're not gonna mess with that. And then due to his back, you're not gonna pose him with his legs because you're just gonna fall over. And same thing with Skids, and he's probably even worse because he can't even look straight because of the way he's transformed. Or maybe I'm just doing it wrong. But either way, I shouldn't have to learn and figure out how to transform him because he's already like 90% there, but he can't even look forward. And without these pieces holding him up, he would have fallen over by now. That's why I have problems with these toys. And then you bring in the fact that, yeah, it's somewhat easy to transform these guys into robot mode from their vehicle. That's probably why they're packaged in their vehicle mode. But when you're going from robot to vehicle, they are very, very difficult. I don't know why they're so difficult. They're not fun. They're not cool. They take up a bunch of space for a deluxe. Like, how deep they are in a shelf. And, like, I just do not like them. They're not cool. They're not fun. They have nothing to laugh at or to be proud of. You know, I can't even find something to like about them. I can't find anything to, you know, like, be like, well, I like that. Well, there's nothing. Like, their gimmicks are cool, I guess. Like, Skids, he can punch and his hand can somewhat articulate, even though his fingers aren't open. And then you have Mudflap, which has this gun, which is somewhat cool, but these pieces are most certainly going to be easy to break. And I can't even remember how you activate it, like, to bring it up, but I don't know. I'm not going to try to break it or whatever. But, and then the fact that they all work off of these thin armatures and stuff like that is that there's pieces like these doors and things, and these things, like, especially these headlights, like, they're super, super brittle and they could easily break. And I just don't like them. They're not cool. They're not fun. And, like, even the Mecha Live, like, or whatever this is, like, they just nod their heads. They don't do anything. Like, Skids just freaking collapsed into his body. But it's just, these are toys that I truly do not like. Like, a toy, for example, that I really am not a fan of is Human Alliance Leadfoot. I really do not like that toy. but I can give it a scrap of compliment with its amazing looking car mode, because it's a very faithful and accurate toy. Is that if you want a scale NASCAR of whoever driver or whatever style that was for cheap, I think he's cheap, but you can get that toy. That's the only thing I like about it. But that's something that these guys don't have. They have horrible looking car modes. Like, I don't know why they had these style of car modes. Maybe someone does, like someone, like a producer or someone, like maybe someone knows some behind the scenes thing. But I do not agree with making these characters just, like economy cars. And not even the cool economy cars. Like, you could, the black Civics from Fast and the Furious, the first one. Make them something like that. Make them some cool JDM Roadster or, like, tuned out thing. Like, that'd be super awesome. Not a Chevy Spark and whatever Mudflap is. Like, no, these cars are horrible. They're not cool. They're not fun. They're weird. The only reason why they're cool, the only thing that made these guys, those cars relevant is probably because of these two. And it probably wasn't for a good reason. Just everything has fallen upon these guys. Horrible movie that they're in. Horrible stereotypes. Horrible characters. Horrible toys. Like, and then, like, the fact that for their ice cream truck mode, and nowadays is like $70+ for one. Like, that does not make sense. You either get the worst toys for, like, I got this guy for Mudflap for $5, and I got Skids in a bag of stuff at a flea market. Just, it's like either you're pay super cheap for the very lowest toys, or you pay a bunch for the slightly better toys. Just, I do not get these guys. And people that want one Studio Series, me personally, I don't quite get it. I can understand wanting to complete the collection, complete the cast, but when it comes down to it, it's going to turn out like this Studio Series Bumblebee. Is that for these guys to scale being shorter than Bumblebee, and that's already I think a smaller toy or smallish deluxe, but for it to scale with the Revenge of the Fallen or even Dark of the Moon Bumblebee, they're going to be small. They're going to be super small. They're going to be like this tall. Like, they're not going to be big. You're going to get a horrible toy. Like, the kibble on him, like, this kibble should not be here. They should have done something. And just for how much bullcrap these guys do and how intense it is, it does do a good job at displacing their mass to make them do what they do. Does it justify what they look like and what the robot modes do? It does not. But I can give it that it does a fairly okay job at displacing their mass. And I don't think for a modern deluxe at the small size that they will have to be at, because if these guys, because they're going to be smaller than the originals, because the originals don't scale with Studio Series stuff. End of story. And then you add in having to have some sort of complex nature because of the way they're designed, their character models, like these robot modes, and just the jank and then stuff like that. They will not be worth $25, at least modern, even $20. Back when like Studio Series started, it was not worth that. They won't be worth that. Even if Hasbro and Takara do decide to make them, I will not be buying them. I don't think they'll be worth what I will be paying for them. That's what I just think. And I think people should just give up, because I don't like these toys. Literally everything for these characters was a failure. The movie was a failure. These toys were a failure. Even the ice cream truck version of them was a failure. And all of the Hunt for the Decepticons and Reveal the Shield versions were a failure. No one likes these toys. And no one likes these characters. Sorry, I just yawned. I just remember this toy so much as a kid. And being able to do it. And when I still struggle with it a night before I review this video, trying to get it good as I can, that's bad. Because I've been doing this for quite a little while. I can figure a lot of modern stuff out without instructions. And I still can't get this toy to work after like messing with it for like 5 to 10 minutes. It does not have to be like that. It may be somewhat simple to transform these guys from their vehicle modes to robot modes, but once you go from robot to vehicle, you are going to struggle. You are going to not like it. It's not going to be fun. You're going to realize what I'm talking about. And when they offer nothing, they don't look good, they're not cool, and they're like they're easy to break, I cannot recommend these guys unless you truly, 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 truly want a complete cast of Revenge of the Fallen. That's the only reason why I would suggest these guys. But still, I would steer clear and just say that they don't exist in canon, in my personal opinion. But that's really all I have to say. So, until next time, see ya.